All right, thank you so much, Bridget, for that. And of course, you know how we roll on the show. Today is World Poetry Day 2024, and every single year on March 21st, we celebrate World Poetry Day. Now, today, to appreciate the beauty of language and connect with people from different cultures, poetry brings together a nation. The history of any nation or country cannot be overemphasized or cannot be counted without poetry, and that's why UNESCO started this day to support poetry movements globally. And now the theme is Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. It's a celebratory theme for the World Poetry Day. And like I said, this theme is a nod to iconic writers of the past whose trailblazing works enlarged poetry's footprint across cultures. We have a guest on the show who is the hallmark of that. His name is Godson Osarenren. He's the author of The Broken Cross. He's a poet, a teacher, a blogger, and a courageous voice for human rights and social justice. A French graduate from Ambrose Ely University, Epoma 2007. He also represented the Nigerian French village Pedagri at the Leopard Cedar Senghor Centenary Celebration at Lomé, Togo. And he's a Nigerian who's a confessionist poet whose work is characterized by a unique blend of traditional African oral poetry and has a consistent beat that mimics the rhythms of traditional African folk songs. You can imagine modernist techniques. And he's an award-winning poet, Black Pride magazine, and member of several literary groups. And he's been featured in several poetry collections, including the anthology of food-related poems, Who Shall I Make My Wife? Welcome to the show. Good to have you on board.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to Silverbird today.
Thank you.
So it's World Poetry Day. We're exploring the power of storytelling in poetry and social justice. Now, it's interesting to look at all the things that you do. You're a poet, you're a blogger, you're a writer, you're a human rights activist, everything combined together as one. But let's talk about you. How did you get to be all of these amazing different parts? How did you evolve into being a poet? Now, some people are just poets.
Yeah.
We are doing the poetry. We don't need to add the human rights. So how are you able to combine and become all of this at once?
Okay, so poetry found me, and I got into poetry over the passage of time. And I come from a very political background where politics is being shared from a day-to-day basis. And I'm a teacher, and I represent an embodiment of several knowledge. First, I call myself a poet and a confessionist poet, using the I person. The P stands for a prophet. So as a poet, I'm a prophet. The O, I'm an orphan of thoughts. Then the E, I'm an engineer of words. And the final T, I'm a teacher. So these lingering lines never cease from the beautiful lips of a poet.
Wow, you even said the lingering lines never cease from a beautiful poet. I had so much fun with them. I studied literature in school. I was one of my best subjects after government. So I can understand how poets literally craft words to make and to appeal to their audience. But let's take a deep dive into your style.
Okay.
When you say you blend traditional African oral poetry and modernist techniques as showcased in your work, The Broken Cross. Let's get some insight into what that represents.
So The Broken Cross, was published 10 years ago as a gift to myself on my 30th birthday. And the Bush Radio, I turned 40 last year, 2023, and I launched the Bush Radio. So the Broken Cross is historical. It's quite historical because it talks about the armed robbery incident that ravaged the southwestern part of Nigeria in the 80s, and get into a deep dive into the intricacies that happened during that period, but that is not in public domain.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the Broken Cross, the Bush Radio, on the other hand, is a collection of 100 poems and 5 segments. So my love poems, I call them Sweet Poison, 20 in numbers, and each of these poems is depicted with an artwork. Then my political poems, I called it The Unchained. My religious poems, I called it Opium. My philosophical poems, I called it Musings, and my African poems, I called it Roots.
Wow, we're coming to trying to unpack all of these different aspects of you. There's the love poems, there's the political poem, there's the different parts, which is really insightful.
Yeah.
But we're celebrating World Poetry Day now.
Yeah.
Look at the significance of World Poetry Day and how you've been able to contribute through your verses. Because I believe that poetry is all about building verses to speak and to have a voice of change. And looking at the role of poetry in fostering cultural exchange and understanding and empathy, not just on the African continent, but on the global scene. Let's look at the theme and the significance of World Poetry Day to you as poets.
Okay, so the significance of this day is key. The UNESCO actually adopted this day on in 1999, and ever since then, poetry has been celebrated. And people like us who are bubbling poets, we ride on the existing trailblazers like Leopold Sedar Senghor, Wole Soyinka, David Diop. Actually, these are the fathers of modern African poetry, and I really appreciate them. And from their style, I've been able to create my own style. I'm a page poet, and I really don't do spoken words.
Okay.
So when you read my write-up, there's a deep connection of emotions flowing deep, and you will be able to trace my background as an African, stringing several languages together so I can communicate my thoughts in Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, just as my muse directs. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I know that the significance of World Poetry Day is just to foster that togetherness and bring together likewise like you who do excellent well. But let's look at your body of work.
Okay.
The two things you've mentioned, the Broken Cross and Bush Radio.
Yes.
And some of the themes that you mentioned earlier, heritage, storytelling. Let's look at the use of imagery and metaphor, because those are very strong components of poetry. You can't have a poet without metaphor and use of words. Let's talk about all of this, how they captivate the readers.
Okay, so the use of figures of speech, metaphors, similes, all this evocates the poetic language, and it brings it closer to the reader. A reader is able to engage with the written words and is able to connect. So these are translated into society. I can compare, okay, like yesterday I was talking to a friend and I said, Nigeria is an oven. And he was wondering why. I said, yes, it's so hot here. And the rain just sprinkled a little teardrop and it's a bit calm now. So that's using figurative expression to express how it is. And growing up, my grandparents used to use words quite figurative. They'll say, oh, don't just, when someone is such a burden, he could become a cross. So that alone is figurative, and you start wondering, what's the meaning of a cross? So a cross can be a burden and all of that. Yes. Okay,
I was going to go more into that because of time. Let's get into the upcoming Nigeria Poetry Fest, where enthusiasts like yourself will have the opportunity to engage with you. Another, when is it coming? I know there are a range of activities, reading discussions, workshops. When is that happening, and what does it encompass?
Okay, so the Nigeria Poetry Fest, I'm the convener of Nigeria Poetry Fest, and it's holding at the University of Lagos, Glass House, Faculty of Education, and we'll be organizing poetry like never before. You'll see spoken words being lit, and everyone will be properly engaged. We'll have panel of discussions. We have, so there'll be a prize for the best poet. It's either you get a scholarship of $4,000 or you get 200,000 naira cash, as the case may be. The other prizes, we have sponsors who are going to be giving free drinks to everyone, chocolate drinks to everyone who comes in there. And we'll have other consolation prizes. Yes, and awards will be given to participants.
How can people be part of it? And is it just limited to poets? Who else can be part of it, and how can they?
So rappers can be part of it. just creatives generally. You can actually register on our website, or you come in person. So our website is www.nigerpoetryfest.com.ng.
Okay, so
Yes.
anyone who's interested in but just before I wrap up, I'm very much interested in the fact that poetry should be a voice of change. Do you think that so far so good, like yourself and other maybe acclaimed poets have been able to do justice to the conversation of social justice in Nigeria and politics in engaging government at the highest level?
Sure, there are a couple of us that are doing really great and pushing the language of poetry strongly to the government. And like I've done a couple of poems, The Tears of Shege, which is quite a very strong, appealing poem. And there's one of my poems, Tell My President. So we've been speaking loudly. There are a couple of us that, in fact, from time to time, you see, they tell us to take it easy because we're blazing really hot, honestly. Honestly.
All right. Just in the works, what is in the works? Because you've written two amazing books.
Yes.
People can reach it on those different, where can they get those books?
So Bush Radio is on Amazon, and The Broken Cross too is on Amazon.
All right.
You can actually get it online. Yes, and have fun with it.
With it, 2020
Yes.
is to engage and stimulate your mind. 2024, what's in the works for you? Poetry, new books?
So I usually give myself a 10 years target. I can work on projects and do things amazingly.
Okay, so the event is happening today, I believe, 21st of March.
True.
Okay, so they can come, enjoy themselves, and brainstorm with other intellectual persons like you. And what are the other poets that are going to be there?
Okay, so we have writers coming in from different walks of life. We have professors from the different departments of the University of Lagos. They are with us today, and trust me, it's going to be a beehive of poetic activities.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
the
you.
show. Nice to have one who does poetry and engages on the highest level, Godson Osarenren. So if you love poetry, you love to be stimulated mentally, what names they call people who are stimulated mentally? The name they call them. If you're one of those people, this is a good place to be. I have a great time. Unilag with amazing Glass House.
Unilag.
What time?
5 p.m. is an evening event, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
All right.
Just come and enjoy poetry at its highest peak.
All right.
And you won't regret the day.
Okay. Thank you so
Because
much.
poetry is king, so crowned in our hearts.
Nice, nice, nice. Reminds of all the poets when they were doing poetry when we were in secondary school, and we had some of this, something about Ibadan. I'm trying to remember who wrote that, who was the author of that poet about Ibadan. I'll remember after the show. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was nice having you. Guys, there you have it. We had a great time with Godson. We'll take a break, and when we come back, it will be more for you on Throwback Thursday. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.